All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie, and I am always excited, you know that, but I'm very excited today to introduce a new Warrior guest to you, Debra Eckerling, and I'll get to her in a second, but I want to remind those that are here what we're about. So, success is a journey, it's not a destination. As Warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life: entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value and a vision that goes generations into the future. And today's guest, Debra Eckerling, is no exception. She's an awesome warrior who offers personal and professional planning, event strategy, and team building for executives, entrepreneurs, consultants, and companies. She's a goal strategist, corporate consultant, and workshop leader, and the author of Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. She also is the creator of the DEB method, DEB, that works well with her name, right? Method for goal setting and planning. And uh, her warrior journey has spanned over 25 years in communications and project management in multiple industries, including publishing, education, financial services, social media, and technology. She's an award-winning author, which has been her. She's been featured in the Greater Los Angeles Writers Conferences, Agora Pulse, Social Pulse Summit, LinkedIn and Twitter editions, and many more. So she's also the host of the hashtag Gold Chat Twitter chat and the hashtag Gold Chat live show and the Deb Show podcast. So wow, you got a lot going, Debra. Welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How are things on the left coast?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Things are always sunny on the left coast. Just sometimes the sun comes out later in the day than others. So I'm thrilled to be here and always happy to talk with awesome people such as yourself. So there you go. And what was really making me laugh, because you'll be a guest on my show, is I say pretty much the same thing. I'm so excited about today's show, but I'm really, really excited about today's show because I've got awesome guests. Okay, I always have awesome guests. So
Yeah.
I already am seeing so much synchronicity. It's hilarious.
Well, I love it because, and again, we are aligned, and we do look at the world. I think you said in our, as we getting to know each other, that we do look at the world in similar ways. And the thing that it always astounds me and amazes me, and that's part of why I'm so big on networking and getting to know other people as much as possible and learning what I can is a learning exercise. And no matter, in fact, I get as much value from my networking and working with folks, just in learning how they view the world, even if we're very close. In fact, sometimes it's more valuable, right? Because we're on the same road. We may be a little parallel, but we're on the same, going the same direction. And you may see something ahead or have seen something along the journey that I didn't see. And that's a learning, right? So that's why I so love talking to warriors from all walks of life, because every episode, every discussion, every one-to-one, I learned something. So anything crazy going on in your world right now, or are you just kind of trying to wake up since it's 2 hours earlier there? I'm in Texas, and remind me again, where exactly are you located?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay.
Yes. Nothing too crazy just yet, but I do want to respond to something you just said. So we're talking about my show. So I leave my Twitter chat on Sunday nights, and then on Mondays I bring in three friends. You sometimes they know each other, but usually they don't, to just have a conversation about the topic. And that's one of the things that I love about what I do, because I'll bring people together who maybe shouldn't, we don't like to use the word should, but they're like, oh, I'm so happy you brought us together, because they don't know. And it's really a good way to introduce them to me to them, and them to each other and all of our worlds. And
Hmm.
there's really no better way to see who does what and why and their different opinions on a topic than to bring them all together. So we have fun in similar but different ways, but it's really all about the conversations and meeting the people because you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. And the more people you know, the stronger your tribe,
Hmm.
and on and on and on. So there you go.
Well, I love it, and I can tell that we're going to have kind of an ongoing journey here. But let's do this. Let's take a quick break. I wanna. Speaking of your story, and I want to get into your story, and then right after the break, and then I want to hear about how you got from where you started, and you get to define where that is to today. And then we'll take another break and go into the next segment. So, with that, let's take a quick break. For those in the audio audience, you're going to hear a little bit of Ricky Jean Wright and our theme song, which is Not the Getting There. And we'll be right back with Debra Eckerling and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back. And Debra, we really are so aligned, and I'm so excited to get to hear some things that I know I haven't heard yet in terms of how you got from your starting place on your warrior journey, the 25 years or whatever, to today. Tell me how that all happened.
You say 25 years, it feels like it's such a long time. And you blink, right? So I was doing events at Barnes and Noble, this back when I lived in Chicago. And whenever I needed to fill my calendar, I would just hang out in the cafe and see, what the community was up to. And one day, one of my regulars came up and said, "Hey, Deb, will you start a writer support group?" And I said, "Sure, if you think people will come, let's try it out." And for me, that meant checking in with people. What have you accomplished? What are you working on? How can we support you? What are your goals for next time? And for me, it was like, who knew that that would start me on this path? My business background is communications and project management. I love talking, I love people. So everything kind of merges together. But for me, from that first group, I saw the power of goal setting and productivity firsthand because I would never ask the people in my group to do something that I wasn't prepared to do. So I would set a goal each month and reach a goal each month. And let's fast forward, moved to LA, restarted the group in 2002. And over the years, it has evolved from being a writer support group to for writers, creatives, and entrepreneurs. It's goal setting, productivity, and community. And pre-pandemic, there was a live group. Now most of my world is housed. It's got a the Write On Facebook page where every day it's a different prompt. What are your networking goals for the week? What are your goals for the week? Blog share day, toot your horn Thursday, my favorite, and photo Friday and weekend plans. So each thread is an opportunity for people to share what they're working on and also make connections because you don't know. So I will rewind before I fast forward. So people started, when I was leading my live groups, people would say, "Hey, you're good at this. Can I hire you to help me complete this project or figure out my path or make new plans?" So that's really how I got into consulting. And then they'd say, "Oh, you're good at this. Will you speak at my event?" So it really was a very nice organic evolution from, "Hey, let's start a writer support group," to Deb, who is goals. Um, the other piece the other piece was about 4 years ago. One of my communications clients was going away, and I said, "Okay, this is an opportunity for me to fully dive into what I believe I was meant to do, which is to help people figure out what they want and how to get it." I rebranded as my name. Fortunately, Deb and my system worked well together. Who knew? And everything kind of evolved from there. So Deb stands for determine your mission, explore your options, brainstorm your path. And so I basically rebranded as Deb using Deb. What do I want? I want to be the first person people think of when they hear the word goal. And that foundation is the piece that so many goal setting experts, I always use air quotes, I have opinions, um, that's the piece most people reach out because it does. Okay, I want to be rich. Great. What does that mean? I want to buy a big house. Wonderful. What does that mean? How about what do you do? What do you love? What do you want to build? And starting with that core, but I'm probably like fast forwarding too much. So
Yeah,
let me
you're
rein
fast.
myself
Yeah,
in. Let
yeah.
me rein myself in.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's get back to your story because what I want to hear here. Let me ask you a question. Give me. So you're a podcaster. You kind of know. One of the things that every warrior that listens to this podcast that I've gotten feedback from says is because we're all warriors, we're all focused forward. And so it's very natural for us to say, okay, let's fast forward. Let's skip that part. Let's go through. And you did exactly what most warriors want to do because of a very important reason. We look at things and we know that there are things that we've overcome and we don't want to stay there. We don't want to dwell there. But one of the things they always like to hear is, as we talk, as the podcast says, the zombies in your story, the things that you have, the challenges. I mean, you moved from Chicago to LA. There's all kinds of challenge. I mean, at least from somebody looking at LA from Texas, there's all kinds of zombies in LA, from what I can tell, in terms of challenges. And zombies aren't a pejorative. I mean, we're all infected. It's just to what degree and how much we let that lack of intention guide our actions as opposed to our warrior intentions. So tell me how, what are some of the zombies that you've overcome?
oh, so many zombies. Gee, I'm not quite sure where to go with this, but let's. It, I ended up in LA because I spent the summer I turned 10 here with my family, and I always felt this kinship. And moved back home after college, and my mom was selling the house, and I said, "Great, I'm moving to LA. Want to come?" So we packed two cars, drove cross country, and LA really is it's me. It's got even in lockdown where you could live anywhere. There's just something about this town, this energy that's always spoken to me. So it made sense that I would end up here. And I what I'd love to go back, actually, I will answer like the best zombie question. So I've worked over the years, I've worked in corporate, I worked in education, I've worked for social media, I've worked for startups, and I freelance. So I was always doing a lot of the things. And I would say since, let me see, I had been, I'm trying to shorten without elongating. Um, I have been working from home and freelancing for this particular client where I've been editor, I work their event, great, very much in tune with me. And I was working their event, and 2 weeks before, they said, "Deb, this is great, but in 2 weeks, so basically in the middle of the event, we're not going to need you to be editing for us anymore." So I'm already committed to working this event because I was on their event team. And it was really like, okay, great. I have 2 weeks. I need to figure out my next step before I go and see all these people. So it's more like the attitude going into it is as building, not, oh, oh, I'm so sad, I'm not going to be working with these people anymore. Oh, look what I'm doing. So a lot of that is the mind frame, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
how do we embrace change, which I am all about. So my system, my book, it's all about you can't get what you want unless you know what that is. And once you figure it out, you can embrace change, whether it is by choice or by circumstance. So I created the Deb method, or rebranded as the Deb method. And like within the 2 weeks, I set up the socials, I got the website, and I figured it was the perfect opportunity to beta test this new thing. And the response was great. And one thing that I talk about a lot, and you'll forgive the fast forward, we can get into this more, is when you know your mission, when you know your motto, it brings things to you. It's
Right.
very law of attraction-y. You get all that energy. And so my goal to help, my mission to help as many people as possible figure out what they want and how to get it using my system, my consulting, my workshops, my book, etc., so they can lead a better life and positively impact others. So very long mission. My motto is goal setting simplified. So everything, so my mission may be long, complicated, and rambly, as everyone's can and may be. That motto, the goal setting simplified, ever since I latched onto that, things have come together in a way they hadn't before. So I come back from this event, I'm working on a book that I'm going to self-publish, and then I meet an agent who I had happened to have met 7 years before, I think, a woman from my live group. I had a goal to do more networking. She sat next to this agent at an event, told him about my group. He reaches out to me. How do we know each other? Your name's familiar. What is your goal? To be the first person people think of when they hear the word goal, to change that goal culture. He said, then send me your book proposal. Let's before you self-publish, let's see what we can do to get it out there. So this is 2018, the end of the year. Mango, my publisher, expressed interest. And January 14th, 2020, so 6 weeks before the world changed by circumstance, my book, which was the purpose is to help people embrace change, came out. So you can't make this stuff up, all the things that had to happen for that timing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah,
I
you
think
did
I did.
actually. Yeah, yeah. Well, let me break it down just a little bit and tell you what I heard because you did. I so love talking to warriors because, being one myself, one of the things I've had to learn is that other people want to know that you're real and that you're on the journey and you've overcome things that they've overcome so that they can follow you too. They don't think that it was something magical that happened. And what you described was something, it may have been just a move and a change, but you described a loss of business. A lot of people stare so much at the door that closed that they don't look forward and see the doors that are open, and that's one of the zombies. That's one of the things that we do is when change does occur, the people that are always going to capitalize on the change, no matter what it is, are those who say, okay, this is not in the way, it's on the way. And now, how do I get around that? How do I navigate through that? What are the steps that I take today that I wasn't taking yesterday? And you illustrated that with, okay, this is a bad thing. I wasn't what I was in my plan. And that's one of the criticisms. And it's not a criticism really, but I prefer to work with people in the beginning stages and then turn them over to somebody, when it comes to goals, because you've got to have a bigger picture in your brain before goals are not just going to be a list of things that you do. And having lists isn't bad and all those kinds of things. And we'll talk about that in what you're doing today. But my point is that a zombie can be, I'm on this path, I have a plan, and something changes, right, to disrupt that plan. And you lose direction, you lose sight, you get stalled, you stop. So the brilliance of what you're saying, and the thing that I love is that is a big zombie for most people. Things that come into our lives that we weren't anticipating. I mean, I've had warrior guests on here that are, they go, oh yeah, hurricane destroyed my house. Oh yeah, I had cancer. Oh yeah, it's like, okay, and I
Next.
and they did it. Well, that's what warriors do. We keep
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. So yeah, that's brilliant. Well, I can tell right now that you're chomping at the bit to talk to me about why you're doing what you're doing today, the value you provide, and where you're going. So let's take a quick break, hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright, and then I want to come back. And now I'm going to let you talk about what you really want to talk about, which is what you're doing right now and why you got up at 9 o'clock in the morning to talk to me. So let's take a quick break, hear that, and we'll be right back with Debra Eckerling and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, I felt pretty caffeinated there. I think I was talking really fast at the end of that. So for those that are, if you're listening to on Apple Podcasts and you've got the speed cranked up, which sometimes I tell people listen to it faster, so because your brain can process faster than I can talk. So anyway, but that being said, so you heard you know where we're going with this, Deborah. So tell me why you're doing what you're doing today, and what's the unique value that you see yourself providing, and if anything were possible, what kind of impact? And by the way, I believe everything is possible, so there's nothing off limits there. What would the impact and what would your ideal day look like?
Those are a lot of questions.
Yes, they are.
Which is fine. So I basically spent the last 2 years telling people that cosmic break is a good thing. It is the perfect opportunity to assess your life. And it, I believe what you believe, which is anything and everything is possible, but you have to kind of gift yourself the time to figure out what that is. You don't want to just go off. Well, maybe you do want to go off on tangents, but let's hit the pause button and figure out what you want before you set yourself up moving forward. That's really the point, is to do that foundational work, to figure out what is it that you love, that you do better than everyone else, that's your unique thing,
Mm-hmm.
and how does it help others. So that's why we start with the mission, because when you have the mission and the motto, that is your guide to move forward. So yes, so I do some consulting, I do workshops, but what I'm really excited about that I've been niching down to is goal strategy for events, because we used to have everything live. Then for 2 years, we had everything virtual, and now we have both. And goals, really, you can put on top of anything, but we're in such a flooded area right now with mixers and conferences, events, live, in person, hybrid, online, everything and everything. And so many people, they'll go into it with no direction. They'll come back with, eye strain if it's virtual, sleep deprivation for whatever, but not going into it with a plan. You're just setting yourself up for failure. And I'm all about setting yourself up for success. So the thing I've been talking a lot about lately is speaking at events on, how to get the most out of this event, working with companies that are sending people to conferences to give them a strategy for what they need to learn and who they need to meet. So they come back with action items and knowledge, and then a plan of what to do with it. So I think, well, you can layer goals on anything, right? You can layer it on, what do I want for life and what do I want to create? But you can't reach your goals on your own. You need new people, you need new information. And this is just a really good way for me to be up leveling, taking my goal work to a next level where it can help even more people succeed.
Well, I love that because I'm always a believer in. Well, for one thing, let me back up because I want to comment on some of the things, and again, it just reinforces how aligned we are. So I run 3 networking events every week. I do a Monday mixer, a Tuesday or Wednesday hybrid meeting, and a Friday mastermind. And then in between that, I also do this podcast. So, in each of those, as you pointed out, there's a reason for each of those and a goal. If you want to, in your vernacular, there's things that I want to have accomplished in each of those. They're not the same thing. You got to understand that how you conduct and the format and the structure. And I'm always, what I'm doing, I've been doing this since 2014, right? And from what we were doing when we started to what I'm doing today through the zombie apocalypse. By the way, I also found, I want to comment on this because, you talked about how just before the zombie apocalypse, as I call it now, that you were just getting ready, your book was getting ready to be published about dealing with changes, right?
Hmm.
interestingly enough, 3 weeks before the zombie apocalypse, I launched Warrior versus Zombie podcast. And the funny thing is, the whole zombie metaphor wasn't because of 2020. The zombie metaphor is part of the book that I've been writing, and maybe I need a goal setting coach because I'm still messing around with it. I got to put a pin in it. I got to shoot the engineers and get on with production. But the point is, it's just brilliant to me that we are so aligned in that the timing, I run my life by divine appointment. I tell warriors all the time, you got to stay present. You got to stay in the moment. You got to realize that nothing's happening by accident, and look at what it is and it's the same thing with your book. It's the same thing with this is you just have to figure out how to adapt. I was not going to do this on Zoom. I was going to do it in the studio. And I did 3 episodes in the studio and then had to go to Zoom, right?
Right.
But the question was, am I going to give up on the progress for a period of time and not do it? Or am I going to figure out another goal, another strategy, another way to keep moving forward? And that's essentially what you're saying. And empowering people to do that for events I assume of all sizes, right?
Yes.
So, these can be like corporate events, networking events, any of those, any of the
Y-
above. Is that true?
All of the above.
Okay.
Conferences, you need a different strategy if you're going to a conference, and you have a different strategy based upon your goals. Are you a salesperson? Are you going there to meet the right partnerships? Are you a developer? Are you going there to learn new skills that you can bring back? Are you in biz dev? So depending on your role, you're going to have different goals. But if you don't think through it before you go, maybe you'll come back with some business cards. Somebody told me a couple weeks ago, and it stuck with me. Somebody who works with was paid to speak at a conference, came back with 5 business cards. This is someone who was speaking at a conference.
Mm-hmm.
5, not even 5 leads, 5 business cards. He could have made more money not going to the conference. And
Mm-hmm.
that shouldn't happen. It's, and I always get stuck on the word should, shouldn't. It doesn't have to happen.
Right.
If you plan ahead, and that's why I do this on both sides. So I will speak, for example, in March, I spoke at the California Creative Writers Conference, one of the places I speak at frequently. And I did how to get the most out of this conference. And I went through the different tracks. What is your goal? If it's for networking, these are the sessions you need to do. If you're looking to write fiction, check these out, nonfiction, this, but don't go to everything. Look at the big picture, see what aligns, and do that, and then find the action items. I mean, that's the very short version of how you do goal strategy. But so when I speak at events, I can customize it to their content. When I work with companies, it can be, okay, let's really dig deep into your goals and match what you need with what they have to offer. So any type of event, any level, networking, content, mixture, whatever, because it all, as we said, works together.
Well, that's brilliant. And one of the things I can tell already is, and you don't even know this, so I haven't talked to anybody about this, but through some of my mentors and some of the feedback from the audience is I've done a couple of episodes where I spotlighted or focused a topic that was introduced in the introductory Warrior versus Zombie the the warrior that I was talking to, and I'm already kind of getting an idea of a what I would call a focused episode where we a warrior spotlight, if you will, that we might go into and talk about how do we apply the things that you're doing to the concept of networking and achieving your vision and those kinds of things. So, well, let's do this. Let's take another quick break because we're getting to the end. I want to hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright before, and then after I hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright for the audio audience, then I want to come back and I want to kind of boil this down, Deborah, to if we take away anything from this podcast, what would you like us to take away? And obviously, at the end, I want people to know how, other than on the Be Connected platform where this is live in the Hive right now, how they can find you beyond that. So, with that, let's take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll hear more from Debra Eckerling and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back, and Debra, it's been fun. I knew it would be. Had no doubt in my mind. Every conversation we've had since we met has been fully loaded. For those who missed it, we had a Connect Mastermind last Friday that Debra led us in. So if you want to get a little more insight into some of her thoughts and her methodology, you'll be able to do that. But as I said before we took the break, if we take away anything from this podcast, what would you want us to take away?
Well, I want you to take away everything, obviously. But really, if you take away anything, I want it to be your message, which is anything and everything is possible. What I would love, can I give homework?
Sure.
Take some time and really think about what you want and why you want it. Think about that all important mission statement. Because once you figure that out, once you boil that down, figure out your mission, figure out your motto, you can use that as your guidance, as your guidepost, your beacon, your compass to any and every of your goals. So it starts with thinking about the life you want. Great. But why do you want it and what do you have to offer the world? Because once you figure that out, the rest, I'm not going to say it's easy because, nothing is easy, but it sure is easier when you know where you're going and why you're doing what you're doing. And that applies to your goal journey, the way you approach events, the way you approach life. You can have your mission statement can be for your personal goals too, or you can have both. So I know it's more than one thing. I want everyone to take away owning who you are, what you love, and why, and what you have to offer the world, and use that as your starting point and your guide.
I love it. Actually, again, you just amplified how aligned we really are. My motto, by the way, just in teasing for the May 2nd, I think you talked about is to change the world one dream at a time. That's just distilling down my life purpose. That's what I'm doing today. So I'm always, so I'm in your method. I mean, not exactly, but I have my motto. I have my mission. How I do that is part of my mission statement. So we're very aligned there, and I think every warrior. That's where when I mentioned earlier when I said we could be disconnected, but we're not, is the fact that too many people come into a new year. I do a year in review, and then what do you want to accomplish this year, and where are you going, and what are the goals, and breaking it down and doing some of that kind of stuff. Even though I believe life is a team sport, I usually refer that off to somebody who really wants to work on that daily journey with them. But they have to understand that, because if you start just throwing goals out that you don't know why you're doing them and what value you're going to bring to the table and where it's really taking you, right? You're just going to give up. You're just not going to do it. I mean, we're going to stop. So that's the power in everything you're saying there. So I just love that as the takeaway. So how do we stay in touch with you, Deb?
Well, in addition to being able, you can find me on the Be Connected network. LinkedIn is usually the
Mm-hmm.
first place that I connect with people. So please look for me on LinkedIn, mention that this is where we met, and send me a connection request. You can also learn more about me and what I do if you go to the debmethod.com/goals and email info@thedebmethod.com. And if you want to just go on the journey all by yourself, you can grab a copy of your goal guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. It's available on Amazon or at your favorite place to buy books. And it is ebook, audiobook, and book. So yeah. And just like I said, reach out, connect, because you can't reach your goals on your own. And now we get to be each other's people. So there you go.
That's right. And I so love it. That's one of the byproducts, if you will, of the zombie apocalypse is because now you're in Los Angeles and I'm in Dallas, and we don't have to necessarily physically be in the same place to share our audiences, share our stage. We can have an impact well beyond what we could have before because we've adapted, we've learned, we've changed. And so there's so much brilliance in the things. I'm so thankful. Thank you, Deborah, for joining our audience today.
Thank you for having me. And I wish for you your dreams to come true as well. And if you're watching or listening, you can do it. You just have to claim it and go for it.
All right. Well, this has been beautiful. And thank you for waking up early. Thank you for, I can tell the coffee has kicked in and you're doing, and you did great all the way. So we had a blast. And I'm looking forward to your podcast, and I'm looking forward to future opportunities for us to intersect as we go forward. So let's hear the final segment of It's Not the Getting There with Ricky Jean Wright for the audio audience. And we'll be back next Thursday with another episode at 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific for Warrior versus Zombie.